Okay, if everybody can unmute themselves now, we're going to call the meeting to order. Those who care to, please stand for an opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. Mr. Cameron, if you would.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day and thank you for all you do for us. Lord, I just pray, God, that you'd be with us tonight and guide and direct us in all that we do and say. Be with us as leaders, not only as a community, but as a region, as a state, as a country. Just give all the leaders guidance and wisdom in all that we do and say. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with liberty
and
and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. Okay, I want to make sure I can see everybody. Got Mr. Self, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Jones, Mr. Bashirs, Mr. Franklin, Ms. Poole, Mr. Russell, I believe just joined, there he is, and Mr. Dykeman. So it looks like we have everybody. So let's get the meeting started. This time I'd like to open citizen participation. Josh, if you, Josh, if you would unmute the phone lines. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please state your name and address and you'll have 5 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda? Seeing none, citizen participation is closed. Need a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion. Jerry.
Motion.
second, Dykeman.
Have a motion for Ms. Poole, second for Mr. Dykeman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. On to board, commission, and committee schedule. The next city council meeting will be June 2nd, 2020. We'll talk later about where that will be held and how we'll do that, followed by June 16th, 2020 for the city council meeting, the last one in June. On to old business tabled items. I need a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 20-20.
Motion, Wilson.
Second,
Bashirs.
Have a motion, Mr. Wilson, second, Mr. Bashirs. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 8-0. Ms. Laura?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the execution of a STP urban program agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the design and right-of-way acquisition for the extension of the Schuler Creek Trail.
Thank you. I need a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 20-20.
Motion, Russell.
Second, Poole.
Have a motion, Mr. Russell, second, Ms. Poole. We have Mr. Brickner on the line. For any questions, comments, or concerns before we move on to a roll call vote? Anything from the council? Okay, seeing nothing, roll call vote.
Councilmember Bashirs,
Aye.
Councilmember Self,
Aye.
Councilmember Poole,
Aye.
Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Franklin,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Russell.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries 8-0. On to new business, first readings. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 20-21.
Motion.
Motion. Second, Franklin.
Motion Wilson, second Franklin. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Ms. Laura?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 23.5 acres located at the 7500 block of West Farm Road 174 from agricultural AG to high-density single-family residential R1H.
Thank you. And we have Ms. Haynes, who I think you're still muted. There we
Good
go.
evening. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the Raider Trust has applied for zoning classification change from AG to high density single family residential. This is for two separate parcels that is now combined that were recently annexed into the city. The city's technical review team does review rezoning requests for compliance with the city's comprehensive plan and also surrounding land uses. As far as the comprehensive plan, the FLUME designation or the future land use map designation is for the low density residential zoning, which does include single family residential zoning at 1 to 6 units per acre. This does include the R1H or high density single family residential district. The surrounding properties, both to the north is high density single family residential, which is the same as their request. Directly to the west is the 12 Stones Plan Development District, and then Greene County agricultural property directly to the east, and Greene County suburban residential property to the south. The permitted land uses in the high density single family zoning district do include single family residential dwellings, residential accessory structures, golf courses, country clubs, and schools. The particular parcel in question this evening does not currently have service for Republic Water or sewer. The site is in proximity, though, to a 10-inch water main and 8-inch sanitary sewer main at the eastern termination of East Timber Oak Street, approximately 345 feet from the western property line of the subject parcel. Connections to these mains will require an off-site utility easement and agreement with the adjacent property owner to the west. The sewer does flow to the Schuler Creek lift station and then through a forced main system to the wastewater treatment facility plant. The lift station and treatment facility plant do currently have capacity for a potential development. The applicant did submit a transportation study as part of the rezoning request. The Republic City Code will require the development of the subject property to include the extension of internal public streets if they choose to go forward with a residential development. This will also include those streets extending to the boundary lines of the property, sidewalks, and construction of Bailey Avenue from West Farm Road 174 to the southern property line. The subject parcel does not contain any floodplain areas or identified sinkholes. Upon complete review of the rezoning request, staff does consider the proposed zoning amendment to be generally consistent with the goals and objectives of the comp plan, consistent with the trend of development in the site, generally compatible with surrounding land uses and able to be served by municipal utilities should offsite improvements be obtained. And finally, staff does recommend the approval of this application. I'll be happy to answer questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from or for Ms. Haynes from the council?
I just want to make sure I'm clear that so the land use was originally for low density, correct?
Yeah, yes, the low density future land use designation includes the 3 corresponding zoning districts for single family residential. So it would include the low density, the medium density R1M, or the high density, which is R1H. All of them having 1 to 7 dwelling units per acre.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, did you have something?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was there any opposition raised at P&Z for this, or any concerns, I should say, raised during the P&Z meeting over this?
There were not. No citizens spoke in opposition or support of the request. The applicant did speak, obviously, in support of his request, and no questions from Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay. And regarding the offsite utility easement and the agreement with the owner of 12 Stones, would those 2 things be secured before anything moved forward with the project?
Not necessarily. It's really about the amount of risk that the actual applicant is willing to accept. We can approve a preliminary plat or infrastructure drawings allowing for construction until some sort of an agreement or easements were in place. Unfortunately, they are going to need that connection through that particular property in order to create a looped water system, unless their engineer can come up with another creative solution. That does seem like the most probable location, though, to make those two connections.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? Ms. Haynes, the commission voted to approve unanimously.
Yes, they did.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, if there's nothing else from the council, remember this is the first read. At the June 2nd meeting, Ms. Haynes will be back for the second reading and answer any questions that may come up between now and then. If you have any questions between now and then, please get with her. Moving on, I need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 20-22.
Motion, Jones.
Second, Russell.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Ms. Laura?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, vacating a water line easement on Lot 1 of the Old Stone PDD.
Thank you. And will this be Mr. Nelson?
I'm sorry, it'll be Karen.
Sorry, Ms. Haynes, go ahead.
Thank you. Lester E. Cox Medical Centers have applied for an easement vacation for the water line located on Lot 1. This will facilitate the construction of a new Cox Clinic on the site. The proposal also dedicates a new 15-foot water line easement to accommodate the proposed building. The staff has reviewed the request. The proposal doesn't have any impacts to the transportation system, the land use, or utilities, floodplain, or other public services. The proposed revised location of the water line easement aligns with a water line easement on the adjacent property, which is currently under construction, known as the 60 West project. The Community Development Department does recommend the approval of the requested water line vacation and the dedication of the new water line easement. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the council for Ms. Haynes? Okay, seeing none, remember this is a first read. If you have any questions between now and the next meeting, please get with Ms. Haynes. And the last item on new business. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 20-23.
Motion, Wilson.
Motion, Brashears.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Brashears.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 8-0. Ms. Laura.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an infrastructure development agreement with Turner Residential Holding LLC for infrastructure for Phase 1 of the Avila residential subdivision.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The developer for Avila, Turner Residential Holding LLC, is asking to enter into a development agreement to defer the cost of a 10-inch water main that will extend west along Farm Road 170 and for the construction of Talavera Avenue. These two infrastructure items aren't necessary for Phase 1, but we feel that it's important to secure these improvements in some form so that they're not left unbuilt. Prevent a situation where a developer might leave after one phase or two phases and the improvements aren't secured financially or aren't constructed. So Avila, the approved preliminary plat, has 139 residential lots. Phase 1 is going to consist of 27 lots. That figures to be 19.4% of the total development. We're asking the developer to secure 19.4%, therefore, of those two improvements, the water main being estimated at $87,000 and the road construction being $602,062.23. The financial security would be good for a period of 4 years. The developer must construct the required improvements or enter into a new developer's agreement with the city prior to initiating a next phase of the development.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments, concerns from the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I might add in this ordinance, this is a deviation of an ordinance that we did several months ago that we're clarifying it in this ordinance with the cost share on streets. If you recall, several months ago, I think Mr. Tyson at that time provided a cost share opportunity or how to pay for infrastructure improvements. And I think it was maybe a little bit misunderstood. So we're clarifying it in this language. And so it very much similar or resembles the property that's would be just due east of our police department, where we were working with the developer at that time that as he built lots, he would secure or provide security for phases of a future street. So we were not left holding the bag on all of that. I believe the intent or what occurred in the previous ordinance or the understanding maybe by council was that they were to secure 100% the cost of that street. And so that was never the intent of what we're trying to do. So we just wanted to clarify what that is, that we're capturing a percentage of the cost of a street. And so if the developer was to leave the development at that time, we're still holding a portion of the funding to build that street versus where we're left like behind Arby's with what we call Republic Commons, where the city's left holding the entire cost of developing that street because it was left unattended. So what we're doing in this is partnering with the development community as they develop, they secure some security as they develop phase one. So we're not left with nothing. As they do phase two, we'll reevaluate the cost and include that security as well. So I just want to be clear that we're partnering with the development community and we're not asking for 100% upfront cost, which was never the intent. Because as you know, with the pandemic that we just seen, housing could slow down and the developers out there with 100% of a street cost and housing just stopped. So this was an opportunity again, just to partner and just to clarify. I think one of the questions was, would this run off development or scare development the last time? And I just wanted to clarify that tonight, that our intent is to partner in phases. That's why Andrew's saying 19%. And so what we'll do is we go into phase two, we'll evaluate the cost to make sure that we're recovering a sound portion of it. We're using prevailing wage rights, not what it would cost us as a city to build, what contractors if we had to hire them to do that. So I just wanted to kind of clarify and answer any questions as to what this proportionate share or why we're doing 19% and not 100%. I don't think it's fair to ask the developer to bear all 100% when they're just doing phase one.
And I should probably add, this probably won't be a common theme amongst smaller type developments. It's probably going to be something we see more in the larger developments where phasing is probably more likely. So in this situation, those improvements really aren't necessary for the first phase, whereas a smaller, say, 5, 10, 15, even 20 acre development, all of the infrastructure will be necessary for the initial phase up front. So we're working with them to establish, what is the most logical phasing so that they can build their funds so that they can build that infrastructure, the more expensive infrastructure.
Any discussion from the council? Okay, seeing none, remember again, this is also a first read. Any questions, comments, or concerns? The next meeting, please get Mr. Nelson or Mr. Cameron. Moving on to other business resolutions. Resolution number 20-R-10, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving the amendment to Articles of Incorporation of a nonprofit corporation for Ozarks Transportation Organization. I need a motion and a second.
Motion. Garrett Poole.
I have a motion from Mr. Bashirs and a second from Ms. Poole. Is that right?
Well,
Okay.
either
No, I
way,
did not make the motion.
Sorry, we're having some connectivity problems. Let me start this over. I need a motion and a second.
motion. Jerry Poole.
Second, Russell.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what this is when I serve on the executive board for the Ozarks Transportation Organization. And in recent months, it was determined or, established by legal counsel that the original OTO was established under the city of Springfield. They were kind of the house that it was built under. And so basically there in the articles of incorporation or how it was established, there was never really any place that if the OTO dissolved, which heaven forbid, we hope that it doesn't happen, but there is no provision in the bylaws that allow for any of the money that we participate as a community to the OTO every year and funds that belong technically to the city or even other cities as a partner to the OTO. If it was to go away, then all those funds would go to Springfield. So just as an effort to clean up the language in our bylaws, this was one of the things that each city had to approve a resolution amending the bylaws to allow, if it was dispersed, that the City of Republic would receive their fair share.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the council? Okay, seeing nothing, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. On to resolution number 20-R-11, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving a preliminary plat for Old Savannah, a residential subdivision consisting of approximately 24.48 acres located at the 6300 block of South Farm Road 89. Need a motion and a second.
Motion, Wilson.
Second.
Apologize, there were several. I heard a motion. Who'd the motion come from?
Motion, Franklin.
Ms. Poole, did you make a second? Okay.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, Ms. Haynes.
Thank you, Mayor. Stephen McElhaney and Old Savannah LLC have requested the review and approval of preliminary plat for Old Savannah. Old Savannah consists of 81 residential lots, zoned high density, single family residential, streets, and infrastructure. The property was recently rezoned. Staff has reviewed the preliminary plat request and has determined that it is consistent with the adopted plans of the city. The preliminary plat contains the 81 lots ranging in lot size from 7,000 square feet up to a little over 8,000 with an average size of 8,890 square feet. It also contains streets, open space, and detention areas. The preliminary plat proposes one new local street connection to South Farm Road 89 or Lynn Avenue, connection to New Madrid Street in the Lakes at Schuler Ridge subdivision, and 4 new connections to undeveloped properties to both the north and south. The new public streets internal to the subdivision will include approximately 4,917 feet of street and sidewalk, which will be dedicated to the city during the final platting process. Deficient right-of-way along South Farm Road 89 will also be dedicated to the city during this process. The city's water and wastewater master plans have been reviewed. The reference parcel is not currently connected to municipal utilities, but does enjoy access, immediate access to utilities to serve the potential development. We've also reviewed it in compliance with the zoning code. This particular parcel does not contain any floodplain areas or any identified sinkholes. And the preliminary plat does contain several stormwater detention areas in the mid-eastern and northern portions of the property designed to control the release of the stormwater. The plat contains a conceptual layout of the detention areas. It'll be used to mitigate the existing conditions and to reduce the amount of post-development flows. This particular area, the details of the detention basin will be reviewed during the infrastructure design phase. Their stormwater detention area and all open space and common areas will be maintained by a homeowners association. And upon staff's review of the preliminary plat, we do consider it in general conformity with the requirements for preliminary plats, and we are recommending approval of the application.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from Ms. Haynes? As far as the connectivity is concerned with utilities, electric, I know that in Schuler that they have Ozark Electric. Is that right?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Do you know what this development, if that will be Ozark Electric or if that's going to be Liberty?
I believe that this is planned to be Liberty.
Do you know, and I'm sorry, I don't want on a rabbit trail. Do you know if the developers had any interest in looking at Ozark? Was that even a possibility, or are there franchise issues that don't allow that for that to happen?
This particular developer and their design team did not inquire regarding that. I'm guessing their design team, they may be on the call, but I am not aware of any direct conversations with Ozark Electric to serve this particular site.
Okay. Maybe speaking out of turn there, I thought I had spoken to a developer at some point in time, and forgive me for not remembering who it was or where they were, but they had expressed interest in Ozark Electric, and I just want to make sure this wasn't the same thing. So
Yes, it was
questions?
the previous development on East Tyne Street.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Laura Burbridge got off easy. I have so many resolutions tonight. I got to do all the reading while she gets to sit back tonight. That's a nice change for her. So we'll move on to the next one. Resolution number 20-R-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving the water and wastewater master plans. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
I apologize. We're gonna have to try that again. I couldn't tell who was who.
Motion, Dykeman.
Second, Russell.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start off thanking the council for attending our 2 work sessions and all the feedback and questions we had, but I'm going to try to make it as brief as possible tonight. We're looking at adopting our 2 master plans as our guiding documents for our pathway forward with our 2 utilities. The water master plan, I want to start with the water system. Overall, we're in good condition. The system is compliant, and the service that we deliver to our citizens is acceptable. We do see some challenges on fire flow and water age within our infrastructure, and that's mostly due to older ductile iron lines or smaller PVC lines. But as far as the supply overall and for our future growth period, we're really positioned pretty well. So in the water system, we're set up to take a very proactive approach to capital investment to stay ahead of large need or reactive need to emergency. On the supply side, I do want to mention that we are a part of a group called the Tri-State Water Coalition, which is an option for supply for raw water from the Stockton Lake area. That's something that we'll continue to be a member of and evaluate as time goes on to see if it's going to be a feasible future supply for the City of Republic. But overall, on the water side, we're in good condition. On the wastewater side, we're geared toward compliance. I know you've heard me mention before that we've been under a voluntary compliance agreement since 2011, and that is set to expire in 2021. So with that, we are going to have to address some compliance issues that we have that are the result of I&I inflow and infiltration into our wastewater system. And what happens is when we have a large rainfall event, or not even that big of a rainfall event, we see a overflow at our wastewater plant that causes us to bypass our primary treatment process. That in itself is a violation of our permit. So over the last 10 years, we've been working toward compliance. We're just not there. But the next step with DNR is to enter into an administrative order, which has a little bit more teeth to it. That's going to be with consent. We're going to enter into that administrative order voluntarily, but it has repercussions for not meeting compliance in an agreed upon timeline. So the first step is really this master plan. It kind of lays out the steps we need to take to get into compliance, and adopting those steps as our guiding principle will be important also for potential grant opportunities. You'll see an additional task order for our consultant in the coming weeks for SRF funding support for the wastewater side. Mr. Brickner will be bringing that to the council for consideration, but that is the next step with the adoption of this master plan. We will ask them to help us apply for SRF funding in order to fund these capital improvements that are in this master plan.
Thank you,
Any
sir. Any
questions?
questions? Sorry, go ahead. Any questions, comments, concerns from the council for Mr. Nelson?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Cameron?
so I want to go back to the compliance element of it, just for the sake of complete understanding and transparency for the community. So the city is under a voluntary consent right now with DNR, which is, as you may or may not recall, we traveled to Jefferson City right before this took place. Myself, we met with the director of water quality. We began working on this 2 years ago, seeing what the need was, and that the city was under this compliance order from 2011. They had 10 years. There was not really a planned approach to get that done. So that what really this is really about is, yes, adopting these plans, but it's really demonstrating to DNR that there has been a concerted effort, which they recognize, that we're on a plan and a path to address it and to expedite probably what should have been already done from 2011 to that time that was probably kind of stalled. Not blaming anyone, but just calling it what it is. And so pretty much that we're under a timeline to get that, which was 10 years. And so we've kind of got a path forward. But in all the celebration, which we've done, there was a strategy from the beginning of expiring debt, which we've shared all along. We paid off the wastewater plant early. We're going to be expiring another debt in the wastewater side early as well. That's all going to lend itself to about a $20 million investment into the infrastructure of the wastewater plant. So in all the celebration of suggesting, yes, we've gotten out of debt, we're going to have to exercise debt now in the future to get into compliance with DNR as well. So basically, our wastewater plant is going to have to be upgraded to meet those needs. Our permit, which expires every 5 years, or you're supposed to renew every 5 years, that permit is currently expired. So we're in a negotiation or portion of that is to get what that is renewed. And so just to clarify an expired permit for those that may not understand, those are very common. I can recall several times in my permit experience, sometimes those could be 5 years delayed, 3 years delayed, basically because they're looking at new parameters in your wastewater discharge permit. So basically what you're going to be seeing coming up in the next several months is an education piece that we're going to be kind of communicating and rolling out to the community to explain that we're going to be coming forward with a bond issue at some time with how to pay for those improvements to the wastewater plant, but also how to address the I&I portion of the system. But again, we believe that carrying the debt has positioned us very well to deal with new debt. So I just want to be very clear what that does. And it also takes us very far, as Andrew's explained in his presentation. That will carry us for the next 20 years in those expansion, assuming growth does not just completely outpace the capacity of the treatment plant. But this is a very smart path forward. And so you'll be seeing more about this in the coming weeks and months, because we're going to begin to communicate this with the council even more and with the community, because we're on a deadline and we want to demonstrate that we're a good partner and that we have a plan. And that's what we paid Burns and Mac to help us with. In addition to our capacity issues, we needed to deal with the compliance. And so I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, but if you have questions about what that bonding looks like, what our plans are, right now the paper for that through the SRF, which is called the State Revolving Loan Fund, is about 0.8%. So it's cheap money, but it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of public hearings to get through it. So this is something that we're taking to address a compliance issue and not something that we're just trying to build and expand the system. So, but it will build and expand the system as well.
Thank you very much. Anything from the council? I just want to say, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Cameron, and staff, it's amazing work. There's a lot of information there and puts us on the right path forward for the growth that we expect fully. So thank you guys so much for doing that for the citizens of Republic. Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Only three left. Resolution number 20-R-13, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for the phone system. I need a motion and a second.
Motion, Dykeman.
Second, Poole.
Have a motion and a second, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city's phone system has kind of been a pain point for the last handful of years, and it's been a budgeted item to get upgraded and replaced for some time because of that. Not only has it been posing as a quality-based issue on phone conversations, but also hardware issues. And we're to a point now where that phone system is no longer supported by any vendor, nor is hardware available. And even more so, we're now to where our phone system hardware is acting as a bottleneck of upgrading our network speeds that we would like to reach to support our new third-party cloud-hosted applications such as Tyler. So in a lot of different ways, it's time for this phone system to be upgraded to help improve the entire process for technology and its applications as it plays part in the city's processes. But we published the request for proposals and received 8 sealed bids from vendors, all cloud hosted voice over IP telephone solutions. There's a wide range of costs you'll find in contract structures in terms of how many years are involved and upfront costs. We reviewed demos for each of these solutions thoroughly, and we found that there was a top 3 competitors, I would say, but after considering all the factors such as service included in contracts, the type of solution we're looking for, the quality, and then the reputation, we ultimately found that the Mitel company offered all of those things. It's not the cheapest, but it is a very competitive price point, and we can count on quality service, and they will host all of our telephone lines, which are currently landlines provided by AT&T. So it will actually offset current costs that we are paying monthly. And at the end of it, it's a near wash in monthly recurring costs from our existing system to this new cloud hosted system. And it's our opinion that it's the right thing to move forward with that contract that Mitel has bid for us.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments, or concerns for Mr. Jones from the council? Mr. Russell?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, sir. Mr. Jones, or perhaps Mr. Cameron, whomever may be able to answer this. I recall that the phone system got struck by lightning about 9 months ago, maybe. Did anything ever come of getting insurance money from that? And did that play into this at all?
Mr. Mayor?
Sir.
So, yes, we checked in with the insurance. The cost of our system and the replacement of it, the age of it, it did not even meet our deductible, so it was not something that could be covered. But we did check, but it's a pretty aging system, and finding that we checked. We ran those traps with our insurance company and couldn't quite get there.
Fair enough. Nothing else, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from the council? Mr. Self?
I think anytime that we can update and have a neutral cost, that's a win. So I'm all in on that.
Absolutely. Anything else from the council? Okay, seeing nothing, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. On to resolution number 20-R-14, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the establishment of a bank account and authorized signers for the municipal court. I need a motion and a second.
Motion, Wilson.
Second, Poole.
Have a motion and a second, Ms. Parks.
Good evening, council members. The city's municipal court is currently switching over to the Show Me Court system. You guys had taken that issue up a couple months ago and approved it. And in conjunction with this switchover, the city will need to open a municipal court bank account. The Office of State Courts Administration, which is OSCA, is requiring that the municipal court have a separate bank account from the city's accounts for the purpose of processing the receipts received through their system. The municipal court bank account will be on the city's tax ID, though, And the finance department will be allowed to have limited access to view the account online. The municipal court will have oversight of the account and will be responsible for following established internal controls on this account. The court will submit a completed reconciliation of the account to the finance department for review every month. And the finance department will not have access to the Show Me Court system once it goes live. In addition, the city will also need to, through this resolution, designate individuals who be authorized to sign on behalf of this checking account. The two individuals who will be designated per OSCA's requirements are Judge Ryan Ricketts and the court clerk Penny Mays. Two signatures will be ordered on the checks for the account. But in addition to setting up the account, the city will be creating an administrative policy for the courts to follow to make sure that there is still some kind of internal control with the city and court relationship. In addition, the city will be asking to add a service line to the yearly audit contract so that the auditor will be auditing as a separate independent entity, the city court. That will ensure further oversight. So through this resolution, we are simply asking to set up a separate bank account and designate two signers. Normally we have the mayor and the mayor pro tem as the signers, but per OSCA's request, they're requesting that the court judge and the court clerk be the signers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the council? Okay, seeing nothing, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 8-0. On to the last one for the night, resolution number 20-R-15, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, providing for phase 2 of the COVID-19 recovery plan for the City of Republic. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion Wilson.
Second,
Okay, Ms. Poole has the second.
Poole.
Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you know, we've been working on an order and then they've been changing. Sometimes they go daily, not so much the orders, but numbers and data that come out. What we're doing tonight is amending the original resolution from about 2 weeks ago, actually a little bit longer, 2 weeks ago, after the governor released his order. What we are essentially doing in this one is allowing us, if and when the governor changes it, it allows us to coincide with his changes. What we're doing here is pretty much going to the social distancing that he outlined in his original order or his latest order. What this also does is if he changes this next Thursday, then unless it's something very drastic, that it would align with that. I suspect it'll be retail adjustments, maybe larger numbers in certain areas, but allows us, instead of actually having to redo the resolution every single time, that it coincides with what the governor is doing. That is probably the biggest takeaway of what this resolution is doing tonight. But I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. There's nothing substantially material, and we're going to follow the governor's orders.
Thank you, Mr. Self.
Yes, will we reevaluate here the trends in a couple of weeks and maybe look at the capacities in restaurants?
Sure. Yeah. What I anticipate, and just discussing it with other cities later this afternoon, and just kind of like, hey, in a couple of weeks, what we ought to do is sit down and look at what the trends are doing. And, the mayor and I have talked about this at length of like, what would it look like to open back up and, percentages. And so we're kind of ahead of the curve a little bit on that from our percentage of what we're doing now. I think every couple of weeks, look at the trends and consider, should we go to 75% next, or should we stay at 50%? So far, we're doing pretty good at 50%. I'll say this, that we've actually gotten some situations where we've offered 50%, and businesses are still choosing to use 25%. So, I mean, I don't want to have the floodgates open and I get a bunch of calls tomorrow, but so far the push has not been to get there. But I think that every couple of weeks we ought to evaluate what that is. And when it's time to change it, we'll bring that back to the council unless the governor makes a substantial change in that language. But we'll evaluate it every couple of weeks, and on the agendas, if necessary, we'll amend it. But that's where I would see that we would make the changes. Other than that, that'd be the only change that I could see that we would make, because the governors, I suspect, will coincide with that unless there's a trend the other direction. But again, if there was a trend the other direction, this change tonight would allow us, if we had to go back to 25%, it also allows us some latitude in the case that there's a spike. So I think this provides us a little more latitude to move with the governor instead of calling a special meeting with every time it happens. But we will consider it every couple of weeks for sure, looking at the data and the testing.
And to be clear, the guidance on 50% too was taking into account that the restaurants or public places we have in the City of Republic, if you follow the governor's order with the 6-foot social distancing, which we can't supersede, really doesn't allow them to have more than 50% inside their business. So it does, like Mr. Cameron said, it keeps us from, if the governor retail, which we have to follow the governor's order. So if he changes the retail to go up so they can have a higher percentage, then we don't have to call a special meeting in the middle of the week to try to get everybody together to change the resolution. It would just follow that. But on the other side of that, if it were drastic in either direction, it still gives the council an opportunity that we could call a special meeting if we had to discuss what we do from there, because ultimately we're going to put that back in the council's hands as we've done from day one. So just the most material change is to say, if the governor comes out tomorrow and says, okay, retail can go to 50% or 30 or whatever it might be, we don't have to call a special meeting to change our resolution to match his order. It would already be done. Any other questions? I would also, while we're in this, I have to thank Mr. Cameron. I know he's talked to me way more than he wants to. We've been on the phone daily. We've been in contact with every agency you can imagine, the health department, the Greene County Commission, Ozark, Nixa, Springfield. I mean, just everyone we've been in communication, even Battlefield and the other cities within Greene County through the Mayor's Association. So it has been a lot of work and discussions, and I'm just really proud of how the City of Republic's handled what we faced and where we're at right now. So anybody else have anything for this resolution or the amendment to this resolution? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0, and we are done with that part of the agenda. We'll move on to reports from staff. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is my hope, it is my desire that this is the last Zoom meeting that we have to conduct some way, somehow, to host our next council meeting in some form of chamber that we can exercise the proper distancing, but at the same time, for us to begin to resume our meeting. I want to thank Josh, Laura, and anybody that's participated in these Zoom meetings. I think it may have been, we kind of joked about it. We've had several meetings. We worked very hard those days leading up to the very first Zoom meeting, testing and making sure everybody had training. And then if you recall the first 30 or 40 seconds, we weren't sure if it was going to take off, and we've done all that preparation. But I just want to commend the Josh and Laura for getting everything ready for us every meeting. And Josh, you do a fantastic job of mics on, mics off, knowing when to bring us in and not. You've done a great job to facilitate these meetings. And I can safely say, and I don't want to brag about it, but it feels I'm very proud of the effort for us to continue the city's business. The developments that we're approving developments tonight in these meetings, and we didn't shut that down. And so I can tell you, if we had, there's a backlog waiting to come to you too. And so it's one of those things that we're continuously working on this, but had we not been able to conduct business, that would have made it significantly difficult for the developers, but for us as well, would have delayed a lot. And with development, I want to thank or congratulate Backwoods Golf. I believe their soft opening is tonight. Unfortunately, the mayor, not myself, and the staff were invited. We couldn't make that. So I want to, welcome them to the community. That's going to be a great addition. I think they're talking about maybe another little soft opening tomorrow night. So who knows, maybe we can get out there and hit some golf balls. So anyway, just want to welcome them. Some good news to report. I know it's, this budget is going to be a challenge, but Debbie sent out some financials today that would show that through the quarter, our revenue was up at 40%. And I don't want to give that a false positive. We're seeing the dip that's going to come, but where we should be at 33%, we're at 40%, and our expenses should be at 33%. They're down around 29%. So that's a great separation of two different numbers. One's going higher, and then the expenses are much lower by 4% than where they should be. But we are bracing for the impact. I mean, we're not sure what that will be, but that's a good trend from the information that we provided several weeks ago and the resolution you approved for both the sustainability and recovery plan. So as we begin to evaluate the numbers, which they should come out June 5th, we'll have some new data that we'll be able to pass along to see how trending in that. But I want to thank Debbie for the work. She sent me a spreadsheet today, a couple new spreadsheets that pretty much highlight what the revised budget was and is comparatively to where we're at. Some good news to kind of report along. It's kind of very difficult to report, but it's one of the things that we're going to have to make the decision with that I want to announce tonight is with Have a Blast. It takes an enormous amount of effort to prepare for that event. And with the uncertainty of what's going on right now, we're going to make the decision, or at least want to have the discussion about it, but our recommendation is going to be move that to Labor Day to have 10,000 or 12,000 people in our community during that time when we're still trying to address the testing, the numbers, and seeing potential spikes. If it was just for Republic, it's one thing. But when you have people coming into your community in that mass and bringing them together in one area and then they go back out to their community, I think for us, in the discussion, we've had hours of discussion. We had more of them today. Is this the right thing? And I think there's no pressure applied to us. We've not heard from anyone recommending that we do it or not do it. But we've got it to the point where we got to make a decision with the band, the vendors, the fireworks displays, and then bringing the community into that, and the uncertainty with the testing and where we're at in the total number, and just don't want to see a spike, and we don't want to contribute to that. So just kind of in alignment with our vision to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason, we believe this is the right thing to do at this time. And not based on fear, just based upon what we think is the right thing to do. So, but we've got to notify the vendors for that event. But our plan is to tentatively look at it. I don't know if Jared has any additional information to that, but is basically to host that on Labor Day weekend, on that Saturday. Also, Jared sent out today a schedule of what the Parks Department is going to reopen. There's been a number of things that are out there for reopening, but I'd like for him to share what those look like. I don't want to steal his thunder because I think they've done a fantastic job for how they're going to open the aquatic center. We're obviously going to open it up a little bit sooner than other areas. So I'd like for him to walk you through briefly what our parks plan is, because there's been a lot of questions that my office has received, confusion as to the differences in the region. I just want him to share with what our plan is going to be.
Thank you, Dave, and good evening, Mayor and Council. As David alluded to, we will make the formal announcement on Have a Blast as early as tomorrow afternoon. We are eyeing that date of September the 5th. I just want to hit the highlights of our reopening plan. We first released our reopening plan on May the 1st. That update to that plan will be available tomorrow afternoon. In regards to the Republic Aquatic Center, we're happy and glad to open our doors to the public on Monday, June the 1st. That will come with maximum capacities. We'll have a maximum capacity of 175 people from June 1st to the 14th, and then upper maximum capacity to 350 people from June 15th to July 26th. And then after July 26th, we'll kind of play it from there. How we're doing that, which I think is great, and I think the community will appreciate, we're having open time swim blocks. We'll have 2 open time swim blocks a day, Monday through Friday and on Sunday. And on Saturday, we'll have 3 open time swim blocks. Those swim blocks will last 3 hours. All of those will last 3 hours with the exception of a kind of a neat themed swim block on Saturday evening that only lasts 2 hours. Those daily admission tickets will go on sale the Sunday prior, leading up to the week. So each and every Sunday prior to the next week, the next 7 days, the tickets will go on sale at 3 o'clock. Those ticket admission sales will go on sale to public residents at 2 o'clock. So Republic residents will have an hour ahead of everyone else to purchase those pre-sale admission tickets. Other things in regards to the Republic Aquatic Center, the one that was kind of a difficult decision we had to make was season passes. So there will be no season passes for the Republic Aquatic Center in 2020. For those patrons who are out there who have already purchased a season pass, we will be fully refunding their purchase, or you can use a household credit to purchase admission tickets. Moving on to the playgrounds, happy to announce those will formally reopen as of Thursday, May 21st. Those will be open as soon as daylight comes. You can get out there and enjoy those playgrounds. The Republic Community Center, we opened the lobby and walking track on May the 11th. Effective June 1st, we will open our gymnasiums and community rooms. The AMP at J.R. Martin Park, we have opening weekend set for June 5th and 6th, an additional date on June the 12th. We will be limiting capacity at the AMP to 150 people. And once again, that will be conducted through a ticketing system. Youth baseball and softball, really excited to get this program going. We've been practicing since May the 11th. We're going to begin gameplay on June 21st. We have walked all the way through the process of separated seating areas for spectators, additional dugout area for players. We're going to remove all the bleachers. Spectators will be encouraged to bring their own chair. We've made game rules to ensure there will be social distancing, and we've made game schedules, fewer games every night, more time in between the games to allow social distancing and people to ingress, egress out of there. So we can be assured that not a lot of people are coming in contact with a lot of other people that are coming and going. David already touched on Have a Blast, and the last one is Cox Fitness Center Republic. That is out of our control, but I just wanted to update everyone that they are going to meet this Saturday and decide their plans moving forward. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Keeling, have you considered how this change in attendance at the pool is going to affect your budget? How much of a shortfall are you going to have? Do you have any idea how much these other activities are they going to affect the bottom line in your particular department?
Sure, it's a great question. I'll just speak. Let me speak to the baseball, softball first. We have seen a slight downtick in our overall registrations. However, I will say this: as of the last 2 or 3 days, we were getting more and more calls in regards to, can we still get in your leagues? Can we still get in your league? So I think there was just some general hesitancy out there about registering for anything, but we have seen upticks, and we're trying our best to accommodate as many teams as possible. But as you can imagine, with limiting games on the fields and putting in more time in between games, we are at capacities as far as the number of teams we can accommodate. Moving on to the Public Aquatic Center. This one's an interesting one because normally on a great day down there, we could get anywhere from 600 to 800 people, and that's a lot of people. However, with this time blocks, now the first 2 weeks, we're not going to be able to get near to what we normally would. We're looking at 2 blocks, 175 people in each block. Obviously, the math equals 350 people a day. But once we get to June 15th and moving on, we could potentially have as many as 700 over the 2 swim time blocks. So we're getting closer to what we recognize as a really good day prior to all of this. So we'll see how it goes. I think to answer your question directly, yes, we'll be somewhat negatively impacted, but we're doing everything we possibly can. Like on the first 2 weeks of the season, 175 people doesn't require quite as many staff. We'll be able to save a little bit of money on expenses there. So one blow to us will be the season passes. We typically sell a lot of season passes. We're regretfully going to have to pull the plug on those this year. We'll have to see how that math plays out. We want to be respectful of the season pass holders, though. So if people that have already bought a season pass, we're working through a scenario where we give them discounted admissions. So that cost, which traditionally speaking saves them a lot of money through the year, we're hoping to save them at least some degree of money by lowering the admission cost.
And I just have a very quick follow-up question, if I may.
Sure.
With the canceling of the summer rec day camp, can I bring my kids directly to you, Mr. Keeling, to watch, or do I need to take them to one of your staff members?
I would prefer that would be through the staff. Yeah, I have
Perfect.
one 12-year-old daughter, and she's all I can possibly watch.
All right, worth a shot.
No,
Thank you.
I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate the community's patience and understanding. We did ultimately have to cancel that program for at least the first 6 weeks of the program, but we are hopeful we'll be able to bring it back for at least the last 6 to 8 weeks of the summer. So,
Okay, we'll get to Mr. Self and then Mr. Dyckman. Mr. Self?
All right, Jared. So I have to ask, basketball is my therapy. I see on your sheet that there is some open gym, but there's no pickup games. Whenever you all have talks, is there any type of in those talks of saying, hey, obviously social distancing is a big deal, but where do you allow a group of 10 guys to play ball, or is there a certain topic does that get brought up at all in anybody's talks, Mayor or Mr. Cameron?
sure. I mean, the common theme amongst all community centers open up right now is limiting contact sports. And especially when you consider like basketball and soccer, those are a high degree of contact sports. we do understand we have a large amount of pickup games at our facility, really all throughout the day, every day. But for now, knowing the amount of contact involved, especially with basketball, we do have to do our best to limiting those. We are going to have a gym monitor in the gym at all times during open gym to make sure that the rules are being followed and to ensure social distancing. But regretfully, Brandon, that will be one casualty right away of the open gym time is no pickup games.
I didn't know if it was phase 4, phase 5, phase 20. I wasn't sure.
Well, we, like you, are eager to get back to what we hopefully do well, but that'll come in time.
Brandon, to answer the question too as well, I look at it just like we're doing with everything else. I think as we watch the trends in numbers, I guess the idea of setting dates, it's really about the numbers and the data that we get. So, I mean, these are just ideas and concepts to put out there, kind of like the restaurants and percentages. It's really about when we start to see data that actually continues to facilitate that. I think that's what helps us get a little bit looser with that and reopening those things. And so I know that they've done a good job just trying to put it together. But a lot of that stuff is just waiting for more testing and data to come through.
Thank you. Mr. Dykeman?
Jared, I've had some questions. Have you heard anything in regards to senior age reopening the senior center?
Mr. Dykeman, I have not. That will be a decision, obviously, of the Area Office on Aging, but as of right now, they have no plans in place to reopen anytime soon.
Okay. That's kind of what I figured. I mean, I knew it was their decision, but I thought maybe you had heard something from them.
I have not. One thing, obviously, as you're aware of, I just want to make sure everyone is generally aware of in our community, they continue to serve meals, however. They continue to serve meals to the homebound via Meals on Wheels, and they continue to serve meals through a drive-up service. So,
right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the council? Okay, Mr. Cameron, do you have anything else?
I do. I want to thank, tonight we voted on the trail extension. There was an additional $400,000 that came about. And why I make mention of this, again, serving on the executive board of the OTO, we took this issue up last week. And the way that money is meant or is allocated is there is a funding mechanism that could equally distribute that to all the other cities. And so I just want to share with Ozark, Nixa, Willard, they were present in the room, Springfield Airport president, Commissioner Dixon, and a commissioner from the Springfield City Council. They voted unanimously to allocate the entire funding to the City of Republic. I believe that we've deferred in other projects and allowed other things to happen in other cities. And I just want to extend my appreciation to those cities and those entities for showing their support for our project, because we've supported others in hopes and in those same anticipation that when ours came available. And I think if you look at that trail to Wilson's Creek Battlefield, it's come together with virtually, I mean, it's almost like I can't remember, it's 1.5, I may be off on that number, $1.6 million project. We're looking at $50,000 out of our pocket to do it. That's a project that was never there. So it's going to be a great project all the way out to the battlefield. And I just want to thank the other communities that helped participate. There's still a couple of voting steps that have to take place before it goes to the committee of the whole, but it was voted unanimously. And it was motioned and seconded by the communities that we'd supported in the past. And I want to express our appreciation for that. Josh, the phone system, thank you for getting it done and getting it done without us having to spend $90,000 out of our pocket. That's what the budget has always been. Finding a way to do that where it's a net positive for us, meets the need, expands our computer capacity and speeds. Great job. Just a reminder, US 60 and 174, we're starting to message that project. We're going to have to message that project a lot because I suspect the frustration trying to go through that. Even as we begin to reopen, people are going to want to get out and get out faster. That's going to be a very difficult intersection to improve, but when it's done, it'll be a great improvement for the community altogether. But overall, just really proud of how things are going. You should be encouraged. There's a lot of growth and development. Things are continuing to move in your community. Just proud to be a part of it. Thankful that we've been able to do meetings. Thankful for the vision that Jared and all the staff have come up with on a reasonable way to reopen June 1st to do some things at the pool and the aquatic center. Just really appreciate that we started the youth programs to get baseball and things moving again. Again, it's disappointing with Have a Blast for the timing. I think it's the right thing to do, and for Labor Day. So looking forward to that event. It'll be a great event for our celebration for our community, and we're going to do it right, and that's like we always do. But it's that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, sir. I wanted to talk about Have a Blast just a little bit. While we know that we've been fairly aggressive in how we've handled things at the City of Republic as far as allowing people to try to have some normalcy in their life, I think when you look at putting 10,000 people from we don't know where, unfortunately, in that park, I don't know that that's really responsible of us. The main thing is we've got a lot of irons in the fire, I mean, so to speak, with things that need to be done in advance and leading up to that. So it's we give the same level of service to the folks who show up to that we would have in years past. So that is a really hard decision for the staff, I have no doubt. But one of the things we've looked at is while the cases are going to increase, we know that as everything starts to reopen, or at least we believe that that could be the case. We also look at testing, and if you look at Springfield Greene County Health Department's dashboard, the one thing on their capability that seems to remain fairly low is the testing capability. So knowing the number of cases in the community, we've had some good news, we've had some wins. We just wanted to make sure that the right decision was made and responsibly, that we first off didn't bring people into our community in large droves that couldn't practically social distance, and that we also didn't bring all those people together and send them out into other communities to where we now become the epicenter of some sort of a spike that we wouldn't have seen, and we can continue on. It's really important that our businesses continue to get to operate the way they are, and even more so as they feel comfortable doing so. So we don't want to do anything that could jeopardize that at this point, because there are too many small business owners that rely on what's going on right now to keep them in business. With that in mind, I wanted to tell you, I did speak with Clay Goddard from the Springfield Greene County Health Department's director. He reached out and called about the cases. I believe it was 8 cases that they'd had recently, to let us know about them. Fortunately, we had no public health concerns. Nobody had visited Republic that were any of those positive cases. And I'm going to paraphrase what he said because I wasn't directly involved and I don't want to misspeak. But those 8 cases, they weren't, in his opinion, they were not an artifact of the reopening that's taking place. They were travel cases mixed with some people who had close physical contact with known COVID-19 cases. So it wasn't because we reopened everything or we changed our guidelines and businesses started opening and all these cases spiked up. It was just, they had cases, they had tests in the queue, and these folks were people that had traveled, unfortunately, and gotten it elsewhere and came back home. With that part of it, I just got to thank the council because, you know, this has been a pressure cooker for all of us. And you all probably get questions and comments about how we're handling things. It's very polarized, where you get people who are on opposite ends of the spectrum and don't really care for what you're doing no matter what you do. But I think that the council has maintained a cool head. Nobody's been banging the drum to get crazy about things and try to change things for the worse for the citizens or the community or our businesses. So I thank the staff a lot, and I'm very appreciative for the staff, but I'm thanking you tonight because it makes it so much easier for all of us, and it makes it easier for the staff to be successful when there's a group of cool-headed people on this council that can make decisions based on facts and not fear. So I really appreciate you all for doing that. The last thing I have is for Jared and staff. I have gotten so many positive comments about the fact that we're going to be able to, one, open our pool, do it responsibly, but also that we're going to have games so kids can get out and play. But the work you guys have put into making sure that we can do that in a way where, first off, the city doesn't become a target for naysayers that say we're going to be the reason for another spike. But second off, it gives these kids, so importantly, some normalcy. Everything's been pulled out from under their feet. They're taken out of school. They're not supposed to be around other people, and they're hearing all this, and it has an effect on them. So for them to be able to get back to playing ball or some kind of a sport is just huge, in my opinion. And I'm so thankful that you guys put the work in to do that. I'm sorry, Brandon, that doesn't include your basketball, but it is good for the kids to be able to get back into that. So I know I was long-winded tonight, but now I want to turn it over to the council for anything.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Franklin.
not to duplicate everything everyone has said, but agreed with everything everyone has said. It's a great job from Republic. Very honored and feel very privileged to be a part of Republic, and very thankful for all of the hard work between the Parks Department, the water plan, everything. It's truly been a joy, especially being able to have this Zoom and have it move as smoothly as possible. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? Okay, seeing nothing, can't exactly have an executive session on Zoom. If we did, that could get us in some trouble. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and adjourn. Thank you all for being here, and have a good night and be safe.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.